Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant some blueberry plants. We all know that blueberries are full of vitamin C. They're really full of antioxidants. They're really good for you. And we all know that how expensive they are in the grocery stores. So rather than paying that fortune to get the blueberries from the grocery stores, let's grow them at home. Let's grow them for nothing, apart from the initial investment for the plant. And let's enjoy blueberries for a very long time to come. Blueberries like a nice acidic soil, somewhere in the range of about pH 4.5 to pH 5. There's that eagle again, it's distracting us.
Which eagle?
It's a red kite that's just flying over the garden.
That one?
Look, there it is. Get. Zoom in on.
You got that big bird.
Yeah, that's a red kite that's flying. It's up. I've seen quite a few of them about this year.
I know. They've all been flying over.
Anyway, let's get back to our blueberries. So this is a quite large pot. And what I'm going to do with this is, rather than, I normally plant potatoes in this pot and it normally does quite well, but it's a big pot to move around, and I don't want to be shifting this around anymore. So what I'm going to do is, rather than putting crocks, I know a lot of people will put in crocks at the bottom of plant pots and bottom of large planting containers, and then to add for drainage, but and then they'll fill it up with plastic and polystyrene and stuff like that. Personally, I don't like doing that. I use a lot of wood chips in the garden, so what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to set it up in a way where it's almost like a hugel bed, so a Hugelkultur bed. So at my first layer in this, rather than just adding the crocks, I'm going to add in really large wood chips. So look at the size of these wood chips. There's wood chips in here that are quite young, quite fresh. There's wood chips in here that are a couple of years old. These are the stuff that didn't rot down from the chicken house, the chicken run. These are fresh wood chips that have been delivered recently, and they're all getting just dumped in here. So that'll be really good for drainage, and that'll be my first layer. The next thing that I'm going to add is a mix of compost, homemade garden compost, and some wood chips. So as you can see in here, it's finer wood chips than the old stuff. There's quite fresh wood chips, but there's a lot of homemade compost in there as well. So I'm going to just tip that in there, and that'll be my first layer on top of the really big wood chips for the hugel bed. Khadija, can I have that trowel? Khadi? Jazakallah. And now I know what a lot of you might be worried about is, with me adding so many wood chips, that there might be a threat of nitrogen loss. As the wood chips break down, there might be nitrogen being taken away. So as a compensation for that, what I'm going to add is some really fresh chicken manure. This is absolutely fresh off the bottom of the run. There's very little else mixed in there apart from chicken manure, and boy, it stinks. With chicken manure, it's not like cow or horse manure, so you don't need to add barrows full. Just a handful will often do the trick. And because this is going to be here, and I'm not going to get down to this level again for a very long time, I'm going to make sure there's a good healthy dose in there. But don't worry about the chicken's manure. Don't worry about the chicken manure burning the blueberry roots, because what I'm doing is, this is way beyond where the blueberry roots are going to reach this year, anytime this year. I made a lot of homemade ericaceous compost, and I made it with I made it with wood chips, but the wood chips from a mixture of pine and a mixture of conifers. Conifers and pine are very acidic in the needles are very acidic, so when they break down they are used to make ericaceous compost, so that'll naturally have a pH of around 4.5. Hadi, do you want to start filling this up with some of that compost from that bucket now?
Yeah.
There you go.
Which bucket?
From that wheelbarrow. So this is the compost that I was talking about. It's made out of a lot of pine chippings, a lot of pine needles, and a lot of conifer leaves. When I got these wood chips, what I did was I separated them from the rest of the wood chips that I normally get delivered, and I've been composting them down. The next thing I'm going to add is I've got some rotted down horse manure, and I'll add that.
I keep adding it.
Yeah, you can keep adding that. So we filled it up with all the ericaceous compost, and the other stuff that I've got is the homemade garden compost. You can see the difference between that. Where did you get that from? Did you get it from? Okay, leave that in there. You can see the difference between that and that. That's more like something you'd use for mulch, and that is something that you could use for potting. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make, now I've filled it up, what we'll do, we're planting two blueberries in here. So I'm going to make a little planting hole. 2 planting holes. Hadi, do you want to get the blueberries? So these aren't real expensive blueberry plants. They're only they only cost a couple of quid. They're from the local supermarket, and they're called Blueberry Patriot. I've planted before blueberries from Poundland. Some have actually been quite decent. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the planting hole with some of this finished compost. No, wait. Do. And then we're going to make the hole again. Stop. I'm just going to push it to one side. And then we've got 2 holes ready for it. I'm quite impressed with the way these have actually packaged. I bought the ones from quite cheap ones from Poundland before, and the roots have been really poor. You can see a decent root structure on there, but you can also see other little bits of plants coming up. So I'm just going to pop that in there, set it in. Is that not coming off? Okay, give you a hand. There you go. Okay.
Put the one in my pocket there.
Okay, do you want to get that? No? Let me get that out. Careful, carefully does it. I'll pop that in there. Straight, keep it straight. That's it, don't push it in.
Should I cover it?
Let's put it that way. And that'll be a nice position for it. So we've got the plants in. We're potting them in just below, very slightly below the original planting depth. And that's it. We're just going to firm them in.
So all we can see is just them.
And that's it.
So does the blueberries go in these?
I'll take the last little bit of that finished compost and I'll add it as a mulch over the top. And that'll be fine.
And we can water it.
If you want to go and get some water in the watering can, then we can water it.
So water it?
Yeah, just give them a good water. Okay, that's enough. So that's how we've planted our blueberry plants. We'll keep you updated on the progress of those. We'll leave it there. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.